do I think about the effect of airplanes on what? On the the way it was affecting the shipping of the samples and stuff?
Yeah, Chris said you were bruising his whiskey on your airplane.
Well,
and also molesting. I'm not sure what kind of technical term that is, but it sounds scientific to me.
And that's why I'm not in politics, because in fact I'm politically incorrect.
There's our 10-minute alarm, so it's time for another delicious shot of
another round.
Whiskey.
Hello.
Cheers. How you guys doing?
Cheers.
How you doing there?
Sorry to keep you waiting.
Good, yourselves?
Doing well. Sorry for the wait, guys. Adam had a little issues with his computer. Had some technical issues, so we finally got him logged in, so we're all set now.
I continue to have technical difficulties, but hopefully this works okay.
Yes.
Little
Good,
good brown liquids never hurts.
Yes, sir. The best COVID defining.
Alcohol kills germs. Stay healthy.
Yes,
That's
sir.
what they say.
I found a cure for COVID right here.
So far, so good anyway.
We'll keep trying. It's a multi-step situation.
Yes.
Right.
Did you finally? Was it hard to finally get it down in Florida? Did you finally work that out?
I can't say it was easy, Chris. It was a little challenging, but I eventually got it. That NBC place had it.
ABC place, yeah.
No, not ABC.
Oh, good.
NBC.
The other network.
Oh, okay. It could be. Yeah, it's out of my world. Done. They want to get a lot of stuff delivered, and the pandemic is wreaking havoc down there still.
Yeah.
We got through it up here. It's not easy enough, but we got through it. But down there, they're still getting used to it.
Yeah, I mean, the Total Wine said they would order me a full case, but that seemed a little excessive for the first time trying it.
Only if we went into lockdown, martial law.
You are Notre Dame people. I don't know what the problem would be.
I was going to say they know him well. They that's probably his normal order. He's trying to laugh it off.
Yeah, I gotta say this stuff does actually remind me of one of my favorite Irish whiskeys. Like I like this one called Green Spot, and it's I don't know.
Thank you. That's a great thing to say. That's one of my favorite whiskeys also.
I find that's like the best whiskey.
We worked on it. Well, if you don't ever sober up, you can't be hungover. You know. So let's see. What do the Irish say? As long as you can hold a blade of grass, everything's fine.
Yes.
But this is something special about the whiskey is that I use the word we collectively. Hi, what's going on here? Here he is. So we blended it to take the bite. Most Irish whiskeys, as you know, besides Green Spot, have a bite to in the backside of them. And there's no reason to you don't have to do that if you want to blend it properly. So I took the pains to make sure I took that bite off the back and gave it that richness by using some sherry and other barrels mixed together. That's actually 4 different types of casks and a bunch of different ages to give it that finish you like.
Nice.
You know, it's nice.
Nice work. I appreciate it.
Green Spot was, in case you didn't know. Oh, good. Green Spot was listed for years as one of the top whiskeys in the world. And it was actually only made in one liquor store in Dublin, Marshall & Sons. And it was a special barrel, special thing. And the only place you could get it until a few years ago was at Marshall & Sons in Ireland. And if I had someone going on, what can I get you? This guy, I said, you go to Dublin, can you get me this? And they had to bring it back. And they finally started doing a little more production and bringing that over here. So now you've got Green Spot, you have Yellow Spot, you have Red Spot. I'm talking about Blue Spot. I think it's getting a little bit overdone, but
cover all bases.
Excuse me, I have all of them, but yeah, the Green Spot remains my favorite. Thank you, Jim. You're awful quiet over there. He's sitting in his office.
I'm soaking Ian in.
I'm just listening.
There you go.
Oh, so do you of you guys want to learn a little bit about the whiskey itself before we start tonight, or talk about the 69th, or what do you want to do on this?
Yeah. Well, Matt, you want to intro?
We absolutely want to talk about.
We can do that.
We want to learn about the whiskey. We'll essentially it's just it's just an informal conversation here. I think Trevor had a little bit of a format he wanted to go by. I know the one thing he was hoping to do was to drink some whiskey. So he had talked about doing trying to take a shot every 10 minutes or something as we went was one of his ideas.
Well, that's great. We'll kind of watch you a little bit. We do these more often.
That's all right.
Enough. No, there's no.
If alcohol kills germs, Jim and I are very healthy. We'll be Methuselah and outlive everybody.
Nice. At some point we'll do an intro, but we'll edit. We have an editor, so we'll edit it all together. I think it's good to maybe just lay out some ground rules. We don't really have many, but I think we just have to be careful with stepping on each other in terms of the vocals. It's not easy when you have 5 people in the same room, but some of the strategies are just giving it. If you finish his thought and you pause, kind of think twice about jumping back into it. I say this to myself too, because someone else might be ready to jump in. Just kind of try to be conscious of everybody else talking as best aware you can. It's going to happen. Obviously you guys do a lot of these too, so you know how it is. It's impossible, but it's good to gauge the lag a little bit here for a second. Seems like maybe we got a little bit of a lag between, the different connections and stuff, but I don't know. Essentially, we're just going to let's talk about the whiskey a little bit. Let's talk about, let's do an intro here so we all get familiar with each other one more time. Let's talk about the whiskey, like you were saying. And then let's jump into some other questions and stuff. I wrote down a couple questions. I'd love to talk to Colonel Tierney about the 69th Regiment a bunch. And then I'm sure that we want to talk a little Notre Dame. We'll just try to cover some bases and keep it pretty general. And yeah, so let's just start telling let's introduce each other for a second here. So we personally get to know each other, and then go from there. I'll start since I'm going, and then I'll be quiet for a while. My name is Matt Reilly. I went to Notre Dame with Trevor and Adam. I did film studies at Notre Dame, and I live out here in Los Angeles and still studying film. Started working on feature films, narrative films on some big kind of Hollywood ones. I learned from some really cool producers. I was really blessed to work for some great people, and then been trying to sprout on my own for a while now. Did a lot of some documentaries, some bigger international documentaries, and then lately have been doing commercials, and not necessarily by choice, but it as you saw, I had my 4-year-old here, and my wife also works in the film business. So it's been our new challenge has been figuring out how to navigate 2 film careers while raising a young guy, which, we're not the only ones that have to do that, but the nature of the work makes that a little, as challenging as it can get. And then add coronavirus and no daycare in there. It's been quite a new challenge that everybody's faced with, right? But hey, I love drinking some whiskey. I already went through my first bottle. I got one when we were supposed to do the show originally, and I drank it a long time ago already. So I think the whiskey's great too, and I'm looking forward to drinking some. And yeah, that's me. Who wants to go next?
Trevor?
As you guys know, Colonel Tierney, nice to meet you. I'm Trevor Morris. Went to school with these guys, Adam and Matt. And, just since graduating, I've been out here in New Jersey, married with 2 children, same thing, navigating through Corona virus territory between school, between work, and everything else. But have been maintaining work in the insurance industry, and been in the industry for close to 20 years now, and just enjoying life out here and enjoying the time with the kids. So very excited to hear about you guys again and hear your story, and definitely excited to have a few sips of the whiskey. I cracked open mine, so there's a couple of sips out of the way already, but definitely looking forward to catching up with you guys.
I already opened this one too. Had a drink or 2 already as well.
Hey, Chris and Jim. This is Adam. I'm coming to you from down by Jacksonville, Florida right now. I'm Notre Dame class of 2001 chemical engineering. I work in the material science business. So for now I'm a marketing manager, used to be a scientist, and basically mainly focused on road marking materials and trying to make, save some lives on the roads, enable automated vehicles, fun stuff like that. And I'm down here with my wife and 4 kids, grinding our way through this coronavirus stuff, and pretty damn sure we're going to make it.
If not, we got some whiskey. Cheers.
There we go.
Up.
Cheers.
There we go.
Is it time?
Mm-hmm.
Good. So I guess I should go next because I introduced Jim. Chris Leskowitz, and the master blender for the whiskey. I'll get into blending versus distilling in a little while. Let's see. I went to school out on the West Coast, and I was going to be a political science economics major. And due to some changes back in the days of having to move back and forth to the coast, I ended up finding out that my background as a social chairman of my fraternity and dealing with liquor became something, moved it around. And I've been doing work with that I've been in this part of the industry for the last 25 years, 30 years. And I was asked to do on this particular project a couple of years ago. Probably the biggest question I get about this when I do it is people ask me, like, Leskowitz, Irish whiskey. So always the white elephant in the room is like, I always have to go, my mother was Irish. My father was Polish, but the taste buds are the same. But I was brought over, and when Jim will give it the reason why how the whiskey came about, the idea of it, and I was then given the ability to go over to Ireland and visit different distilleries to see what they had available. Think of it like going to an artist going to a paint store and finding different what's there. So I found different distilleries, finding what they had available that I could work with. And when I finally found a distillery, it had a whole bunch of different pieces to it. And they were amenable to doing certain things. I said, great. I did samples. And then I stayed in Ireland a bit of a time. Then I had samples sent back here, and I finished the blending process. I had them send it over here, and then we worked back. And then about a year later, it came in. So now what happens is it's a combination of things, and I have to keep going back. But besides that, let's get back into doing this, because it's all for the 69th. And I should talk about Jim Tierney on this one, because Colonel Tierney is the head of the regimental trust, and he'll tell you the whole story, and then I go back and have about the whiskey itself. Jim?
Okay. Thank you very much for inviting me, guys. My name is Jim Tierney. I'm a retired Army officer. When I was a kid, I was in the 69th. I went to school in New York. I have a master's from Central Michigan and from another one from Long Island University, an MBA from Long Island. When I retired from the Army, I worked for a Hispanic Medical Society, and I started working on the regimental staff of the 69th as the historian. I spent 10 years as the historian. I'm one of the trustees of the 69th Regiment Historical Trust, and the whiskey supports the trust. The dollar of every bottle goes to the trust and allows us to do the things that we have to do, not only taking care of our artifacts, but also taking care of our soldiers and their families. So we're very, very pleased to be associated with the Fighting 69th Irish Whiskey. The idea came, we go to Ireland. 69th is very, very much tied to the history of Ireland. One of our guys, Thomas Francis Marr, created the Irish national flag, the tricolor. And in Ireland, they have a celebration each year, the 1848 tricolor celebration. And a few of the people from the regiment, usually a couple of officers, a couple of NCOs, we would go over to Ireland and participate as part of the celebration. The 69th has an incredible amount of history and tradition. And one of our traditions is the regimental cocktail, which traces back to Marr and the Irish Brigade, the Battle of Fredericksburg in 1862. Ma drank Irish whiskey and Vichy water, what you would call these days a tonic or club soda. And at Fredericksburg, he sent his aide out in search of, he had Irish whiskey, he sent him out in search of Vichy water. And the kid came back with champagne. And Ma mixed it and he liked it. And we've been drinking it ever since. So I thought it was kind of appropriate if we can get, someone to put our name on whiskey. So we went to a lot of the distillers over in Ireland, the big ones. And they were very interested in Ireland, but they're all owned by multinational corporations, none of them being Irish. And when we went to the headquarters in New York, they were just, yeah. And wouldn't do it. And ultimately, we ran into one of the guys from a spirituous group, and they worked on it for years to try to get going, and it was launched last October. So I'll talk about some of the history of the 69th later, but I'll try to tie it to Notre Dame. All right. So when we decide to do that, and I think Chris will probably want to talk about how he blends it and some secrets of blending and whiskey. And then if I'm on, if you would just allow me to share my screen, I can show you a few things. All right. So I'll turn it back to.
Okay. Now, the one thing about whiskey, whiskey always has good stories, and you need good stories. You have to have something to drink. So we'll get into this quickly so I can start to catch up with you. There's two parts.
Before you start, let me go time out because I'm going to do, we got to get our first drink in officially, right? So let me.
Did I jump the gun there?
You got an extra one. So you did. So you got.
That's great.
You took one early. I was watching you take that one. I'm going to quickly just do like this intro like I was talking about. And then Chris, I'm going to pass it over to you so you can jump right back in to start and talk about the whiskey. Okay. But in the intro, I'm going to tell like the audience what we're doing, and we're going to take our first shot. All right. So this is Adam's favorite part, is watching me blow any kind of intentional thing. So watch and enjoy with him.
Get super serious, Matt. Really concentrate on your persona and who you want to pretend to be right now.
I just want to make sure that I explain something to start a show off so that in the editing room that it like makes sense, but it never comes out like that. Okay.
I like it. I really like it when you think when you really try to like think of each word, and then like it's just awesome.
One day you can cut together that reel of it.
Chris and Jim, you guys are really gonna like this, hopefully.
One day you can cut together the blooper reel, Adam. You can put all that stuff together to show everybody what you're talking about. For now, they can just see it from me in person. Hey, welcome to our show, ND Degenerates for Good. You're back here with Matt. I got Adam and Trevor. Today on the show, we've got a cool little one for you, we think. We are bringing on Colonel James Tierney and Chris Leskowitz from the Fighting 69th Irish Whiskey. These guys are going to come tell us about the history of the Fighting 69th Regiment and a little bit about how they make the whiskey. And while we do that, we decided that it would be fun to do a little power hour. So we're going to have a little taste sample and start this show off right. Every 10 minutes, we're going to take a shot, and we'll have some fun talking. Hopefully, you guys will enjoy it. To the Fighting 69th for the first one. Cheers.
To the regiment.
Cheers.
To the regiment.
To the regiment.
To the regiment.
We'll have to learn more proper and historical ways to say that as we go on. I'm sure we're going to learn a lot here. But to start it off, let's pass it over to Chris. Chris is the guy dealing with the flavor over there, right? You're the master distiller. Is that the way?
No, I'm the master blender, right?
Blender. Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Okay, and the way to distill, just put that is that a person, there's master blenders and there's master distillers. The distiller makes alcohol, okay, but the blender is the guy that puts it together. Think of it one manufactures paint, the other one puts paint on the canvas. Okay. Not that I'm all that especially like an artist, but that's what I do. Is I put things together.
Cool.
So yeah, it's fun. The making it the first time was a lot of fun, but then the next part is then you have to go back to Ireland and make the same thing again, and again. And the barrel, there's a lot of difference in barrels. We'll get into that a little bit. So it's kind of funny because people go, oh, it's great. And I'm like, oh, that's fun. They said, well, how much on this last time we did 100,000 bottles. So when you blend it, if you're off, they're going to kind of be after you. It's a little bit of pressure to get it right. Just 100,000 at a time. And whiskey is a lot of fun if you haven't dealt with it before. This is a kind of a sidebar, I guess. Barrels are really different. For bourbon, they only can use a bourbon barrel once. It takes 70 years of white oak growing to make one barrel. One tree has to go 70 years to do that.
Wow.
Now you can then take you can raise 4 trees on a hill side by side, but at the same time, cull them at the same time, cull them, age them, make them into barrels, then take them and take them to a distillery and fill them up on the same day, same place. You wait 4 years, each barrel tastes different. The wood imparts different types of flavors. So it's not like math. They're really different. So that's why you have to blend them out. You've got to, it's a work, I wish it was, well, I'm glad it's not easy because I wouldn't have a job. And they have different types of flavors. So what we did is we went over there. So these barrels that we use in this whiskey, because it's a part, one of them is, if you should smell this, because what happens is this week we call it authentically Irish, but uniquely American. If you smell the whiskey, this one's got some bourbon barrels in the nose. All right, yeah, it's a combination of barley, malted barley or malt, and then you also have what they call maize, we call corn. But it's been aged in different types of there's different types of whiskey aged in different barrels. So there's some of this in single char bourbon casks. And that's how they toast the inside of the barrel. And that gives it, you can smell the bourbon in the nose in this one. And it gives it some flavor. It gives it not just that pure Irish part. Yet at the same point, we did, smell this, taste this. It goes down really easy. Practice makes perfect.
Yes.
It's very smooth. But as you do it, you can taste there's more bourbon in there. What happened? I used double char casks, which give it some caramel and vanilla that come out in the flavor there. So you've got some fruit in the nose. I think you'd say apples and pears. Yeah. You got that whiskey. You taste it. Now, to fill them out, I then used some whiskey that was aged in ruby port barrels. And that kind of gives it some body. And it's nice and full there. But at the backside, there's no bite. And a lot of a lot of Irish whiskeys have got bite to them, except like you said, your yellow spot. Expensive ones don't. So by using certain types of sherry cask and not too sweet, I've taken the bite off the backside. And you can taste a little bit of honey and a little bit of cinnamon. Yes.
Well, what's the volume of one of these barrels? Like, so how many barrels did it take to make 100,000 bottles?
You get about 325 bottles to a barrel. Okay. So that's probably a rule of thumb. But to make it more confusing is when you use port barrels. That's called a port pipe. They're bigger. There's a bigger barrel. And then you've got the sherry casks are called sherry butts, like BUTTS. And they can be up to 3 times the size of a bourbon cask.
Okay, so you're talking about like on the order of like, what, 300 barrels to make that many bottles? Am I doing that math right?
Something like that. But and we vary. Sometimes I picked out a lot of barrels that I wanted to use.
Huh.
So I put them aside. I said, this has this is save me this, save me that. Let me have this here. We put them in. So they're there. And it's interesting because you have to have it go, and you're there, and you're like, oh, it's a little. This has changed a bit, and you have to. When you want to change the flavor, you've got to go. How much of this do I have to add that tastes like this to get to that next flavor? For the size of the ratio, it's kind of big. It's interesting, yeah. And that's why they let me go by myself. They're like, you do that. We don't want to. You take the credit because we don't want to take the blame. And it's a lot of fun. It's easier. It's easier than it sounds, but it's harder than it would seem at the same point because it does get a little bit. Once you get past the nerves, it's good. Have a good time with it. And the other part, when you do blend, what you blend is not immediately available. It has to meld. So if I put in something that has oak, the oak really won't develop for a couple of weeks in the final product. So I have to think of how it's going to end up. And that's an interesting part. That's where it gets a little more technical or not. And then the other one is this last time, I couldn't go to Ireland because of the COVID. I couldn't fly over. So we had to fly samples here. But the problem, excuse me on that, the problem was that flying samples over here, you've got government regulations, customs, of this, you have that. And you have to get COLA waivers. But then the funny part is as you fly alcohol, it doesn't bruise it. It just molests it. So the pressure changes each flight. So it goes from Ireland to England to the United States, wherever in the United States over to here, then gets moved around. It is just beat to hell. And it takes about 2.5, 3 weeks before it settles down. And then you mix it together, and then you got another figure out a few days to how it's going to be. And then you have to make your call. So it's easier to go to Ireland than it is to do it from over here. But it's a lot of fun. Anyway, so we blend the barrels, and it came out. I think the surprise was when we did it, we brought the whiskey. I always use the word collective we as a part of a team. We brought the whiskey into the armory, into the bar, the Gary Owen bar, which is the picture behind me of the armory. And I'd love to be there right now, but this is just a backdrop. So, and let people taste it. And it went over well. And some people had done some work earlier, and it wasn't quite up to snuff, so that's when they brought me on board. And we did that. And we bottled what we thought was going to be the amount needed because we brought it in late. The Irish have an 8th day of the week, someday. They all have it there for you someday. No one dies of stress in Ireland. So it came over here. We had hoped to get it here in May, June, and it arrived here in late September, which is not a time to bring out alcohol. So we said, if this is going to be like that, I should bottle up this much. It'll take us through September, October, November, through January, so we can rebottle and have some more for St. Patrick's Day. See how it goes. Pete Hegseth from Fox News put it on the news. Colonel's on there on TV. And said what should have lasted 4 months lasted 4 days. And guess who had his tuchus, the nice Jewish word from New York, who had his, I was on a plane to Ireland post haste to get things done, and we got it done a second time. Now we're on the third one. And the repeat sales have been unbelievable. So we've had a good time with it. It's been good. If we didn't have the COVID, we'd be even further along. I'd be back in Ireland again.
So Chris, from what you're saying, it sounds like the distiller's role in it is less important than, like, the flavor doesn't come from the distilled alcohol that's put in the barrel. It comes more from the barrel and how it's blended. Is that right?
They're both dependent upon each other. Okay, these guys had different types of whiskeys. They probably had 12 different whiskeys, and I picked out of the 12 4. But remember, so there's the single char cask barrel, so the single char bourbon cask. How many of those did I try out? What age? This is all between 3 and 6 years of age. Probably most of it 4 to 6 years of age, and it changes as it gets older. So I had to pick out what was going to go in that from there. So it's interesting. There's different. It's like putting the colors. But I couldn't do what I do if I didn't have the products to work with. But they can have. It's funny is they make their whiskey and they sell it to the United States. Their blend is so different, the distillery, than ours. And they're like, "How did you do that?" I'm like, "Well, it's your stuff," but they don't know how to blend it like that.
I'm probably getting too deep into the nerdery of engineering, but I do want to. The esteemed Matt Reilly actually worked on a documentary about airplanes, and I'm wondering about the effect of airplanes on this stuff. Dr. Matt Reilly, what do you think of that?
What do I think about the effect of airplanes on what? On the the way it was affecting the shipping of the samples and stuff?
Yeah, Chris said you were bruising his whiskey. on your
Yeah.
airplanes.
Well,
And also molesting. I'm not sure what kind of technical term that is, but sounds scientific to me.
And that's why I'm not in politics, because the fact I'm politically incorrect.
There's our 10-minute alarm, so it's time for another delicious shot of
Another round.
whiskey. I don't know. I guess it probably does. I mean, it seems like we're being so specific when you're talking about taste on the whiskey, right? That I was wondering the same thing, Adam. Like, it seems even after 4 weeks of settling down, do you have a different taste coming? But I'll leave you on that after we take our shot. Cheers.
To the regiment.
To the regiment.
To the regiment.
Well, probably the first time we had to get some rush to get some done, they flew more over here instead of taking the boat. And I was nervous as can be. I'm like, oh no, because this is just what I didn't want it to happen. Was they rushed it here and it's going to go to the boat and people are going to taste this thing and not know what's going on. So luckily it got caught up in customs, a little this, a little that. I ended up taking like an extra 2 weeks and I was like, this is good. This is a good thing. And then it came out just the way it's supposed to be. So it came out there. We've had a good time with it. 10-minute point. Jim, you're quiet back there. So he's in the regimental headquarters in the same building.
I grabbed the shot glass that has a rainbow on it, and I was reading a little bit about the regiment. And there's something the rainbow infantry. No, the rainbow division was part of back in
World War I, and now the 69th was part of the 42nd Infantry Division, the Rainbow Division.
The Rainbow Division. Okay, cool.
Because the concept for the Rainbow Division was made by Lieutenant Colonel MacArthur when he was Lieutenant Colonel on the Army staff. His idea was to take National Guard units, the best National Guard units from all over the country, from the different states, and it would be a rainbow across the country. You see, and he made that proposal as a lieutenant colonel. And then when they stood up the division in World War I, they made him the chief of staff of the division. So he fought with the Rainbow Division in World War I. And when he talks about slogging in the mud and all that stuff about World War I, that's his time with the Rainbow Division.
Okay, cool. And the 69th Regiment started as a militia, right? Am I right? And that we're reading that?
It was always a militia. Actually, the concept for the regiment traces back to the Young Ireland movement in 1848. 1848 it could be called the Spring of Nations. There were rebellions, Republican rebellions in many of the European countries, to include Ireland. Ireland, of course, failed, but there was rebellions in Italy, Germany, Poland, all over Europe. So at that time, Ireland was still under Britain and British control, and the penal laws were enacted, and the Irish really didn't have any say in government. They had no representation. They weren't allowed to speak Irish. They weren't allowed to practice their religion. Things were not good. Right? Add to that in the 1840s, the potato famine hit. So the people who were supporting home rule and working with Parliament to try to get the Irish, votes in Parliament, weren't really respected by the younger generation. So they formed an organization called the Young Irelanders, right? And it was the next generation. Thomas Francis Meagher, the guy who created the Irish tricolour, the national flag of Ireland, was one of the leaders. And he created the flag and he hung it out a window in Waterford in 1848, March. And 10 days later, he presented it in Dublin at what is called a Munster meeting, saying that he hoped that it would be a symbol of Irish freedom, green representing the Irish Catholic, the orange representing the Irish Protestant, and the white is the peace between the two of them. Well, when he presented the flag, William Smith O'Brien, who was the leader of Young Ireland, called for raising an Irish brigade in New York City and training them in the militia, what would be called today the National Guard. within weeks, independent Irish companies were formed, and those companies evolved into the 69th Regiment. So the regiment was formed, and it really did, for the first, say, 50, maybe 60 years, train the Irish Republicans and to go back and fight the British Army.
Huh. And so back then, you were someone in that demographic living in that town that that heard about it and would go join, or maybe you come from far and wide, potentially even to come join this militia, this regiment, right? What
Right.
about nowadays? How would you join and become part of the 69th Regiment?
You enlist in the Army National Guard
Okay.
in New York. Yeah, it's still a National Guard unit. It
And then you get
always
placed
was
there, or you
an-
get requested? You request to go there specifically, or how do you end up? I don't really. It shows my limited knowledge of the military, and I imagine there's other people in our audience that would ask the same question. So
Yeah,
if you don't mind humoring me, that'd be great.
the truth of the matter is, if you join the military, you give the government a blank check. You could want to go there. That doesn't mean you're going to go there.
That's what I figured. Okay.
But I mean, it depends. They usually, when they recruit you, they'll put you in a slot, but that doesn't mean too much. I enlisted in 69 when I was a kid. Went to basic training, came back. About 4 months later, they took the entire company, transferred it to another unit. So you have no say in that. Then I went to OCS, became an officer, but it was in another unit. And I finally got transferred back to the 69th. And then after a few years at 69th, they disbanded the battalion. So you never know what's going to happen when you're in the military.
Right. Huh.
The
Cool.
69th really has a very long and a glorious history, truly does. Very closely tied to the history of Ireland and to the history of New York City.
Cool. It's actually a history that I don't know that much about, but reading about it sparks an interest because, I mean, my last name is Reilly, and I'm a white Irish Italian, but my dad was 95% Irish, and my dad, I don't know a whole lot about my dad's family that much, but they were New York cops, and I know my grandpa was fought in World War I, so there's potentially some connections there that I don't even know about.
Yeah, he may have been into 69. There was a lot of rare.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far, but you never know. It'd be crazy. It'd be so interesting to find out.
It's amazing how many people were in it. I mean, it truly is. But
he was Army. I think he was Army too. I'll have to double check and ask.
Yeah, there was a few units from New York City, but the 69th still has a lot of police and fire in it. The majority of the unit is not Irish anymore. Really, after they did away with the draft, the Irish lost interest in the 69th, for the most part.
Okay.
And do you guys usually get together during the year, either St. Patrick's Day? Are there any celebrations that you guys use as a way to get together and catch up with the folks that previously served under the regiment and now?
Surely. We have a club in the bar. It's behind Chris. We call it it's the 69th Infantry Officers Club, or the Gary Owen. We lead the St. Patrick's Day Parade in New York.
Yeah.
And there's a big celebration normally in the Armory, but right now the Armory is under construction. Actually, right now, you probably couldn't get into the Armory anyway because the unit's activated for the COVID-19 virus. So they're physically in the Armory now. So no, but there's various events that we have at the Armory. When we had the club open, it would be open twice a week, sometimes on weekends, and the veterans would come in. The veterans have meetings every month, and we have a dinner in October to celebrate the anniversary of the Macon invasion, Macon Island, World War II. And of course, St. Patrick's Day, there's big celebrations in the Armory.
Did you guys do something virtual this year with the St. Patrick's Day celebration?
Actually, we marched on St. Patrick's Day.
Nice. There you go.
this is a good story.
They canceled the parade, right?
It's all right, though.
And the commander of the battalion had a meeting with his officers, and he said, "What are we going to do? You know, the governor wants to cancel the parade, and the mayor's not going to do anything." So I pointed out that in 1856, and that was, if you saw the Gangs of New York.
Yeah, great movie.
Well, the Gangs of New York was based on a book called The Gangs of New York, but the movie took 50 years of gang history and kind of boiled it down to one, one group. But Bill Poole, Bill the Butcher.
Let me interrupt you before you start this story because it's 10 more minutes and we got to have another drink of whiskey for the fun.
There we go.
To the 69th.
To the 69th.
To the Irish, too. We haven't really talked about Go Irish as well.
Right.
That's coming up.
Yeah, we'll segue.
So they canceled the parade, and in 1856, 2 Irishmen had killed Bill the Butcher, right? Bill Poole. And the state was afraid of reaction of the Know Nothings in New York. Know Nothing Party was very, very prominent in New York City. And they were afraid there'd be violence. They allowed the parade to go on, but they kept the military units in the armories, right? They wouldn't let them march. So when the 6th Act was released, then they marched. So we did the same thing this year. We actually met at 6 o'clock in the morning in the commander's office. One of the traditions, they have a shot of Irish whiskey before the parade. A lot of our guys were forward deployed. They were in Kuwait at the time. So we had a video conference with Kuwait, and they toasted us, we toasted them.
Awesome.
It was raining, and then we went outside. And about 50 volunteers, they were all volunteers from the regiment, marched. And behind us was the parade committee, about 10 people on the parade committee, and they carried their banners. And we marched up to St. Patrick's Cathedral. We normally have a mass for the 69th in the cathedral. The cardinal celebrates mass, and then we march in the parade. But we just marched up to the cathedral this year. So we marched in the parade every year since 1851, and this year was no exception.
Awesome.
Nice.
You know, they weren't going to lose that tradition of 170 years, which is amazing.
Yeah.
You know, they maintain, and it's respected. You know, that's the largest parade, St. Patrick's Day parade in the world. And each year they do this thing. They're the first on. They lead through. They wear some. They carry blackthorn sticks, which Jim will get into, and they wear some boxwood, which Jim will get into. And then they go back to the armory. And they used to be that the officers would line the steps of the armory as the enlisted men marched in, and they would salute these guys. And the feeling of family and camaraderie is unbelievable. Plus, when you walk in the armory is a full square block. It's in 26th, 27th Street. It's amazing to see this stuff. Unfortunately, because of working on getting some reconstruction of the building, it was closed down for the last 2 years. But to watch this tradition,
we're hoping that it'll be open this St. Patrick's Day. Construction won't be finished, but the ground floor may be open. But we'll see.
When was that armory originally built again?
That armory on 25th, 26th Street in Lexington Avenue was opened in 1906. Wow. Prior to that, it was downtown, around Cooper Union, that area there, if you know Manhattan, in the Lower East Side.
Interesting. Well, yeah, I mean, definitely the regiment marched during worse pandemics than this one, it sounds like. So good that you continued.
Yeah, you got the Spanish flu, the Hong Kong virus. So.
There's everything. But give you some history and tie it to Notre Dame specifically. During the Civil War, one of the 69th Regiment was part of the Irish Brigade. I don't know if you ever heard of the Irish Brigade in the American Civil War. It's a very famous unit, commanded by Thomas Francis Marr, General Marr. actually, in 1953, President Kennedy presented one of our flags to the Irish people, and it hangs in the Irish Parliament today. But during one of the flags we carried during the Civil War, during the Battle of Gettysburg, one of the brigade chaplains, Father Corby, was asked by Colonel Kelly, who commanded the brigade at that time, on July 2nd, 1863, to give the men a general absolution. 69th was an Irish Catholic unit. Corby went up on a rock and he explained the procedure to the soldiers, and they all knelt down and they said the act of contrition, and he gave them all general absolution. So now Corby, after the Civil War, of course, went to Notre Dame, and he was the president of Notre Dame, and you guys have a statue of him outside of Corby Hall.
Okay.
There's another statue of him at Gettysburg. But if you let me share my screen, I'll try to show you something that the Smithsonian Channel put on about Corby.
Cool.
Is that possible? Nope.
Oh yeah, I gotta do something here. I think, right? What do I gotta do here?
One too many whiskeys for you, man.
Yeah.
Right.
But before you see the movie, it's time for another To the Regiment.
Okay.
To the regiment. We'll add one more. Here we go.
Jump the gun, but how can you say no? You know what?
Oh, look at that! Right on time.
Right on time.
Now, the other really tie to, well, there's a few ties to Notre Dame. Number one, the regiment, obviously Corby was very familiar with the 69. The regiment was called the Fighting Irish, and that's probably where Notre Dame got its name for the football team, from Corby and the 69. And the reason, or to show how it was called the Fighting Irish, it was called that besides being called the Fighting 69. Robert E. Lee, the commander of the Army in Northern Virginia, gave them the nickname the Fighting 69th. But they were called, really, yeah, but they were called,
Wow.
it was at the Battle of Gettysburg, you know, they...
Because they were kicking so much ass, huh? They were tough, and he was like, they're tough on the battlefield, huh?
They were Irish, so they always went in first and they came out last, you know, so... In 1943, in August 1943, so it's very appropriate now because it was also in August.
We doing another one? It's been 10 minutes.
Yeah, why not?
All right.
As well. The 69th.
Yeah, to the 69th.
During World War II, the members of the unit who could have rotated home because they had enough time in combat wanted to stay through the end of the war. But after the Battle of Saipan in 1944, the Marine Lieutenant General who commanded the Battle of Saipan was not pleased with the 27th Infantry Division. That's the division that 69th was in. He wasn't pleased with the division's performance. He felt that they were holding back the Marines, and he relieved the division commander. It's called the Smith versus Smith affair because both of the generals were called Smith. So the new division commander appointed a new colonel of the regiment, and the new division commander felt that he wanted to get rid of the old guard, you know, the guys that have been hanging around since the beginning of the war. So he sent out a directive, a general order, that the 69th would no longer be referred to as the Fighting Irish. So they were referred to as the Fighting Irish until 1944, when the division commander said, you won't call them that anymore. So now they just call themselves the Fighting 69th. When the unit was in Iraq, they had to patrol Route Irish. Now everyone thought Route Irish, I mean, and they actually tamed Root Irish. They're known for that in the Iraqi freedom. But Root Irish was not named after the 69th. It was named after Notre Dame. They named the Roots in Iraq after the football teams. So Root Irish was named after Notre Dame.
Wow. Let me ask you about. Let me. I'm sorry. What are you saying?
I don't want to bore you with any more history.
No, it's really cool. Just
yeah,
because.
Sorry, go ahead, Trevor. Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's really cool because a lot of these things that you kind of knew about here and there, or may have had bits and pieces of, to hear it as it happened and all throughout history it's pretty telling, and it just gives you a little closer tie to Notre Dame. So thank you for sharing, Colonel Tierney.
Now, Colonel Tierney, was Francis Marr, was he a priest?
No.
Okay. I'm forgetting some of the notes from the Fighting 69th Regiment website, but there was someone that you guys were mentioning. I mean, I guess Father Corby in this case is the same role that I'm thinking about, which is an unarmed priest chaplain on the field of battle, motivating the troops to fight. Right? I mean, that's insane. I mean, I'm sorry. No offense meant. I'm a confirmed Catholic myself, but it's just it's crazy to think about the balls that some of these guys had. Oh my God.
The 69th is really known for its chaplains. The first chaplain assigned to a military unit, the Army, was Father Mooney, was sent by Archbishop Hughes. They call him Dagger John Hughes.
Right.
The Archbishop of New York.
You gotta be badass with a name like Dagger.
Cathedral. They call him Dagger John. He had a dagger personality, but he used to sign his name with the cross and looked like a dagger. Dagger John.
What a character. Wow.
Yeah.
He sent Mooney down to be the chaplain of the 69th at the Battle of Bull Run. But he did not like the Irish Fenians, the Irish Republicans, and the regiment was all Irish Republicans. And he actually told Mooney he did not want him to minister to the Irish Republicans. But Mooney did, and he's a very famous chaplain.
Put partisan politics aside.
First picture of an Irish chaplain, of an Army chaplain ever taken was Father Mooney with Corcoran and his staff right before the Battle of Bull Run.
Wow.
And of course, in World War I, we had Father Duffy. Duffy is very famous. I don't know if you ever saw the movie, The Fighting 69th. It's about the 69th Regiment, World War I. Duffy has a statue in New York City, in Times Square. He's the only priest that has a statue in New York City. And it is at Times Square. It's on between 46th and 47th Street, between 7th and Broadway. It's right, if you ever go to Manhattan, it's right in front of the Red Steps, TKS, where you buy your half-price tickets. And of course, Corby in the Civil War with general absolution. We have a lot of chaplains, we always had a chaplain in the unit. Actually, we had a full-time chaplain assigned. It's a National Guard unit. The Cardinal Egan assigned a full-time chaplain working with the regiment. Now the regiment's not there during the day normally, right? But we had a priest who was on our staff. So.
Wow. It takes an insanely brave person, in my opinion, to enter a battlefield, period. But emphasizing the insanely part, to enter a battlefield without a weapon. And they get all the respect in the world from me. I can't imagine, from someone paying a piccolo on the field, to a chaplain, motivating the troops, to something that hits home for me, a reporter being out there trying to report on the front line, which is all very crucial roles in their own ways. That's not, it's hard to see sometimes, but it takes a really special person to. I have a lot of admiration for someone that can put that on the line to get out to for their passion and for their job or whatever.
Faith, ever live.
During World War I, they didn't want the chaplains to be on the field, to be in the trenches, because they didn't want them to get hurt. But Duffy was not going to be doing that. His entire part was to be with the men. So the word got back to headquarters, and Jim's got a good comment on how that worked out. What they say to him, Jim?
At that time, one of our battalions was commanded by William Donovan, Wild Bill Donovan. And Donovan's claim to fame, besides the fact he was awarded the Medal of Honor in World War I, was in World War II, he organized and commanded the Office of Strategic Services, the OSS, which is the forerunner of the CIA. Donovan is considered by the CIA to be the father of the CIA. But the Army decided not to let chaplains into the trenches, but Duffy would always go in. And they asked Donovan whether or not Duffy was in the trenches. They said to him, "Was Father Duffy in the trenches?" So what did he say? Anyone?
In spirit.
He said, no, the guy was a politician there. Remember, he's a super spy. He's considered the master spy.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
He said, well, his answer was really typical. He said, chaplains are not allowed in the trenches. Which is probably true.
Yep.
Have you guys?
There must be, hold on, Trevor. There must be crazy stories about priests then, like, are there some crazy miracle stories that it seems like it begs the question of the story of like the bullet swerving around the priest, or like hitting the Bible in the pocket, or something like, divine intervention saving the chaplain on the divine intervention. Here we go.
On display in the armory of Father Lynch, his helmet. Lynch was shot in the head in Okinawa, and the helmet has actually a bullet hole right in the head. He was another chaplain on the front lines.
But he was survived. He was okay, or like what's the
killed instantly?
Oh, damn!
That's not funny.
The helmet's a reminder not to do that. Not to go.
These are heroes. I'm not laughing. That's terrible. I thought you were talking about the divine intervention. I'm sorry. You tricked me.
What was that? Father's name?
Father Duffy or Father Dagger? Which one?
No, the one whose helmet is in Okinawa.
That was Father Lynch.
Father Lynch.
To Father Lynch, I say.
To Father Lynch. R.I.P.
To the regiment.
All the heroes. To all the heroes in the regiment, yeah. Well, not to take it to a somber note, but something that I was seeing, it seemed to be the math was there was 1,000 in the regiment, in the original regiment, right? But then after Gettysburg, there was only 60 left. Did I do that math correct? It didn't seem to emphasize that, but when you add up the different things, it seemed to be like the original regiment sacrificed their lives for the Union, for the freedom of slaves in a way.
The original regiment had about 1,000 soldiers in it. That's the 69th Infantry Regiment, New York State Volunteers, the one that was in the Irish Brigade. So in 1862, they had the Peninsula Campaign, the 7-day battle. It was just incredible, the fighting in 1862. Then they moved from fighting in Virginia to fighting in Maryland at Antietam, in Sharpsburg, Maryland. They were at a place called the Bloody Lane. And then, that was September. Then in December 1862, they were in Fredericksburg, Virginia at Mary's Heights. And they were absolutely destroyed. Only I think it was 3 officers and about 50 men survived the attack up Mary's Heights.
Wow.
So there wasn't many left. So by the time they got to Gettysburg, Marr had requested several times to go back to New York to recruit, and the Army just ignored him. And finally he resigned, and they took the entire Irish Brigade and they made it one regiment. So there were 4 or 5 regiments in the brigade, 5,000 troops. Now they just had enough for maybe 500. And then when they came out, they only had about 300. after Gettysburg.
Yeah, so I'm glad. Thanks for going through that because it's important. I mean, I love to joke, and I love to have fun, and this is what the show is about a little bit. But it's important to really recognize the important sacrifice that was made, right? I mean, and that it's for me. I don't want to say that just because it was a sacrifice for something that I strongly believe in means it's a more of a sacrifice, but it's a sacrifice that's really important to me, and I'm sure to everybody here. So it's cool. It's cool to sit on and emphasize that for a second, I think.
Yeah.
If you want to find out more about the history, you can go on our Facebook page, the headquarters 69th Infantry Regiment Historical Trust,
Right.
or on a website, which is www.69th.net. We have some of the history on that also.
Cool.
When they had that original brigade, actually, they had regiments, groups out of Boston that trained out in Cambridge. They had people out of Pennsylvania. They came from all over, and they were put together at one spot, but they came from all over that eastern seaboard part of it. But New York is where it's centralized.
Very interesting.
Did so Father Marr, not sorry, Father Francis Marr. There was a note I saw that I thought was interesting that he was originally Confederacy, but then he changed to the Union.
Not really Marr.
No, okay.
No, that was probably Mitchell.
Okay.
He was another leader of Young Ireland.
Gotcha.
And actually, his son was one of the Confederate officers. But the American Civil War was a difficult time for the Irish because half of the Irish that left because of the potato famine and conditions in Ireland in the 1850s wound up in the South, the other wound up in the North. And of course, places like New York City and New York State were not very Republican by any means. They were really strongholds of the Know Nothing and the Democratic Party. So Marr was really looked down upon by a lot of the Irish for being a Lincoln supporter. They didn't like that at all. The African Americans in the United States competed with the Irish for the lowest paying jobs. So, they weren't overly excited about fighting for slavery. But Marr thought it was very important that we preserve the Union. And probably Archbishop Hughes, Dagger John, and Marr, and the leaders of the Irish Brigade really did more for the Irish community in dragging them out of the gutter. One of the Irish historians, he's a councilman from Kerry, Kerry. He believes, it's his premise, that when the Irish Brigade attacked at Fredericksburg, Mary's Heights, that was the point in time that the world started to respect the Irish. And he actually came over on the 150th anniversary, came over from Ireland to be in Fredericksburg for the anniversary.
Awesome.
Now, tell us a little more about that. So what was it about that sacrifice that made, in his opinion, made the world see the Irish people differently?
You'd have to kind of look at the attack at Mary's Heights. It was really a diversion. Everyone realized they didn't have a prayer in hell. You were attacking uphill in open land against the Confederate, it was General Longstreet's forces, who were they were in a sunken road behind a wall, a stone wall. And, the brigade came up the hill and they were just slaughtered.
Not to change gears, but I'm sorry, go ahead, Colonel Tierney. What were you going to say?
It's just his concept was that was the time that everyone wrote about it. All the newspapers covered the attack at Mary's Heights. And it wasn't a major attack during the Battle of Fredericksburg, but it definitely, if you go on the Facebook page, I think we have a video on the the history of the 69th. And Jim Finucane, the councilman from Kerry, talks about that. That's the point in time that people respect the Irish.
Damn, interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask: is there, a big part of our show is charity and doing good for a community. Is there a way that we can contribute to the 69th Regiment? Is there a website that we can drive our audience to maybe go to and contribute if they feel like they could do that?
The 69th Infantry Regiment Historical Trust is a 501c3, not-for-profit.
Okay.
On the website of the trust, which is 69th.net, if you click on the regimental trust, there's a donation button, and you can go right and donate there.
Perfect. We will make sure that we get that URL up on the screen, and we'll have it flashed up here during the show when we air this.
Now, again, that $1 a bottle goes back. And believe it or not, that $1 a bottle was set up before COVID and before the brand came out, and it will go in long after we're gone. And although $1 doesn't sound like perhaps a lot, that's actually 1/3 of the money that we make on that. We don't. A lot of money is taxes, and say everyone else gets it, but we put 1/3 back into the regiment, which is actually for me is a incorporate, I guess, a point of pride. It's like it's great to give back, especially with those people that protect us. They've
Chris,
been on deployment. Yes.
I'll give you more credit. It's probably even more than 1/3 during coronavirus now with everything you're dealing with.
Yeah.
But it truly allows us to do everything that we do because we don't really have any assets at all. And we're very thankful to have the association with the Fighting 69th Irish Whiskey, besides having the Irish whiskey, which is really a great Irish whiskey.
It is a damn good Irish whiskey.
It is. And, we're ready for those sponsorship dollars when you want to send them our way. We have an editor, Joe. He does a great job putting the show together. He's a Notre Dame. He's a recent Notre Dame alumni. He's been volunteering. 2018. He's been volunteering his time to cut our shows for us, and he's done like 7 of them so far. We've got another 10 in the pipelines, and including this one. So, if you ever find an opportunity for sponsorship money, I'm trying to put a little money into Joe's pocket. That's for sure.
Yeah. I'm going to throw one piece at you that we designed for the regiment that it's for tailgaters, which I think people from Notre Dame have been known to have, and for people's home entertainment. We designed a box. Actually, it's the World War I artillery box, ammo box, that we designed into a toasting box. And I'm going to put that up behind me, and you can get them through the regimental website. But all the money on that goes back to the regiment. And I'm going to jump out of the picture for a second because it's a special piece. And take a look at this.
Nice.
We're going to work on diverting 1 or 2 of those dollars over to Joe, as I was mentioning.
That holds 10 3-ounce shot glasses. It's padded, so you can do it. It only opens up a certain amount. On the outside, it's etched with the lasered with the crest like it is on the inside. And
nice.
It's been a very popular piece. Yeah, only available through the regiment through their website.
All right, let's take our sixth shot. We've made it an hour.
I think we're at 7. I think we're at 7.
Well,
who's counting
Colonel
we can go back to the tape. We can go back to the tape, but you're right. It's 7, but it's 6. It's 6 10-minute increments.
There you go.
6 and 1 for good luck.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
For the regiment.
The 69th regiment.
That is some damn smooth whiskey.
It is.
It goes down easy.
We might have to add 10 more minutes to the cast just so that we can take another one before we leave.
All right. It's West Coast time here, so you guys are the ones that are later. We can see how long we can go. We can turn this into who turns off the camera first. We can change the camera. Just kidding.
And Chris, I judge these Irish whiskeys by the hangover, and the thing about that green spot is it's got an amazingly little of a hangover. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I'm sure it won't have.
Yeah,
this
is actually it's one of the problems. There's no repercussions, so you always want to go back and be sure. The other problem about this is that there's always seems to be an overhead fan because your glass always is evaporating, getting low. You have to refill it.
Just so you know, behind Chris is a picture of the bar, and if you look, there's two flags, and the unit carried those flags in a rack. But we also have a Notre Dame flag up. It's not in the picture, but we in the Gary Owen bar on the other wall is the Notre Dame flag.
Nice.
Nice.
Well, speaking of Notre Dame, have you guys made the pilgrimage out either recently or, over the last few?
I haven't, but my nephew I think is going to go there. That's where he wants.
Nice.
To go, so.
Is it going to be for a football game this year? What do you guys think? Are we having some football? Are we not having football? What's our vote here?
Who are they going to go against?
ACC versus the SEC. Everybody else who's scared, they're going to stay home. And we're going to have the ACC play within the ACC, one out-of-conference game. And the SEC is going to play the SEC.
I'm not going to Mississippi or Alabama. You're freaking crazy.
You're not allowed. So the stadium rule.
Yeah, I'm in California.
I got the inside.
Probably not allowed, actually.
I got the inside track. So the home games will only be open to students, limited to 10% of the stadium capacity, and no visitors aside from family members of the players and coaches.
Sounds smart.
We're going to see how that holds up when this comes out 4 months from now, Trevor. You're going to
and the whiskey will be available in Indiana by that point. We're just talking to them now. We only released it selectively to make sure we didn't run out. But Indiana's been put on a high alert because of the fact that it is kind of important. So we're going in over there.
Nice.
Chris, do you guys do any advertising what kind of advertising do you guys do?
We do more internet advertising. What we're really getting into is, since COVID, is doing a lot of virtual tastings.
Okay.
And special groups. And then we have our whiskey team, which is Jim Tierney, myself, some other people. And we do these tastings and we arrange for bottles and histories and other things to get them together. And it really works out nice. And some of the group, and we're big on working with charities, but they contact us. We put that together. We do a lot of Wall Street. It's surprising, but we're only happy to help that out. And it's amazing is a lot of these charitable groups now, they can't hold their functions. They used to have these black ties and this and that. Well, now they're doing virtual functions, and they're bringing it in. Then they have me signing bottles, and they have Jim doing pieces, and it works to help. We're there to help raise money, not just for New York, but for other people too. So it's a wonderful thing. It's nice for us. Although I want to get out of my house. I think my wife wants me out of my house. I think everybody wants me out of my house. But we have a good time. Jim right now is in Virginia. I'm in New Jersey. Our other member of the team, he's down in Kentucky. We've been in a lot of different states in one day at this point doing these things.
When you're ready, when you guys are coming out in the market in Indiana and you're ready to shoot those commercials, you're gonna have to let us go to work on the production for that. We could bring some ideas. I think that could really
good. That sounds great.
Amplify the brand. I do a lot of stuff through agencies and worked on some big campaigns out here. I've been dying to bring some of that ability to a smaller company like that. So, one of these days, one of you guys is going to let us loose on one of these, and we'll amplify your brand. Adam and I had a whole whiskey or a tequila company that we were trying to make back in the day, and we've already run some of the numbers, and we've already worked on some of the marketing. So, just letting you know, we're here in terms of a tool for you as well.
We'll pass this on
to whiskey, and you guys got to sell us our production too.
See, Maddie, I've moved on now, though. I mean, I'm more interested in being a formulator. Like I said, I'm a material scientist, and being a formulator and being able to put together beautiful formulations like this is fascinating to me. So I might need to learn that trade instead. So sorry, Maddie.
So you're going to become.
There's a lot of guys in my company that have been volunteering to take my job, to want to learn to do this. And I'm like, I'm not leaving soon.
Yeah, but Chris, do any of them have the skills to pay the bills, though? I mean, you need a real professional scientist.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
The free agent market has now opened up.
Do I hear a bid?
Well, you know, it brings me to my question, or another question, which is, what are you guys doing for coronavirus in general? I mean, is it, do you have this, you're going to sit back and wait? Are you going to have to get to a point where you're going to have to get on the offensive and start to figure out new business models? What are the discussions going on over there in your company in terms of like this new treacherous world we live in?
Well, we've really gotten into the virtual tasting part. Has become very important. Right. Before we used to be going to the Irish bars, and now you're limited on that. We have an upcoming event on September 17th. Is 6 months to St. Patrick's Day. And where normally people love to do big parties, nowadays a lot of people want to do parties, but they have to keep them very controlled. Right. They have too many people. It gets that. There's some of our favorite bars in New York. They've already received warning, even though they can't have people inside. They're out on the sidewalks. If the sidewalks are too crowded, they give them warnings. You get 2 warnings, and the third time you lose your license. Jeez. And everybody wants to have a promo or get things moving. At the same time, they want to keep it controlled. Except in Florida, Florida just wants a gazillion people.
Right.
But
right.
So that's why Adam's happy.
We got plenty of vitamin D down here. Vitamin D.
Herd immunity.
Vitamin D mixed with hard alcohol equals no coronavirus. At least no damage from it. Right?
They're missing that ingredient, but ask San Quentin about the herd immunity. Anyway.
Alcohol kills germs, and I always say to try to stay healthy from within.
Yep, there we go.
And with that, another to the regiment.
See, we're doing another one. We're doing number 7. We went plus 10.
It's a long crawl back to your bedroom. I know that.
Tomorrow, Adam, you need to record you brought up the whole you mentioned another competing brand, and you were talking about a hangover. So you might have to do a little follow-up recording in the morning. So for our broadcast here, see how. It'd be better if you had to drive to work. I guess maybe it'll be interesting if you got to roll out of bed down a Zoom.
I am going to be on teleconferences anyway on Teams. I probably could record it. You need a control for that experiment though, and see how much of a jerk I normally am. You need the side by side.
Is there a measurement for that?
I don't know. But
the sample size is very, very small.
Yeah.
Well, you notice our glass is the regimental shot glass actually is just short of 3 ounces. And
wow, that's like one of these guys here that I got, but I mean that's more.
Wow, that's like Maddie, look at this. That's like one of these guys.
These are you can't see that. These are the disappearing glasses. Yeah.
Look
zoom out.
Seriously though, we were showing earlier we did some damage on the bottle. I don't know about you guys. I think we all. Delicious. I don't feel hungover right now.
Feeling good right now.
Morning will be good. Yeah. It's that 6 o'clock meeting with the commander, and for the toast in the regiment's office that can be a little bit difficult, but it's easy.
You can go right back to sleep afterward, though.
Yeah. This has been really fun, guys. Often we like to tell fun stories about Notre Dame, though. We haven't got really to a Notre Dame story yet. Colonel Tierney or Chris, you guys said you hadn't been there yet, or what? Or because we can get a story from one of us if we need to, if we have to out of this.
Well, the funny part is the statue in Gettysburg of Corby standing on the boulder. When they decided to use a statue of over at Notre Dame, they use the same foundry. It's the exact same statue. Now the cute one, as you know, Notre Dame football games, you've got you have touchdown Jesus, the mosaic on the back of the church, and then you've got the statue of Moses on campus, right? And he's leading his way through the Red Sea, and he's first down Moses.
Yeah.
But Corby he was giving absolution like this, you know, going in and out there. So he's known as, and he's outside Corby Hall. He's fair catch Corby.
Yes.
You know, you guys are going. And if you watch that movie Rudy, what bar did we go to after you did the fundraiser piece? He's at Corby's.
The linebacker, no, Corby's, yeah.
Yeah, so it's there a long time. But
that was Adam. We got to do another one of these with Adam's format, which was you guys asking us trivia questions about Notre Dame, and then having it like whoever gets it wrong has to take a shot. Meanwhile, we would never get any of these right, and so we would just be drinking the whole time.
Yeah. So Jim and Chris, the three of us went to Notre Dame and spent tons of time there. But it was pretty funny hearing. Last time we were talking to Chris anyway. People were telling us stories, and we were all nodding like, "Oh yeah, we heard of that."
Not a clue. Not a clue at all. Just absolute blank.
Oh, we're learning. We're learning a lot.
I had to Google afterward. I'm sitting there on the computer. I'm like, all right.
Fair catch, Corby.
I knew about fair catch Corby. I did know about fair catch.
First down Moses. You didn't know about Moses? Come on now.
Now, Moses, we all know, but Trevor is clearly lying when he says he knew about fair catch Corby.
I did know about fair catch Corby.
Nobody believes your conspiracy theories.
Now,
I don't believe my own conspiracy theories.
have any of you heard about a place in Ireland called the Rock of Cashel?
No.
Totally. Yes.
The Rock of Cashel.
He's lying.
Really?
He's lying.
No, I haven't. No, not even close.
Any case,
I've heard of the Blarney Stone. Is the only rock I've heard
Blarney
of.
Stone.
Cashel was the
Conor McGregor, maybe here or there.
rock. It was a castle, and it was for the kings of Munster. And St. Patrick is supposed to have his cathedral there, but the wall fell down. And if you ever go to Ireland, you go to Tipperary, you go to the Rock of Cashel, Google it, and they only have one boulder from the wall of the cathedral, because the rest of it was taken back to the United States by Father Corby, the foundation of some church he built. Really
awesome.
It could be the grotto. Oh.
No, it was. They said it was the foundation. You can Google it. I forget where the church is.
I am curious about that.
Yeah.
If it was the grotto or something like that, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
No, I can't get over this. I can't get over this idea of. I mean, I'm trying to translate. I think my experience as an assistant to producers and stuff like out here in Hollywood to Father Corby walking out on the field in the Civil War to try to motivate I can't get off of this. Like
we're spoiled though. Back in the day, there was no cell phones. They had one pair of shoes, maybe two pair of clothes. Bare minimum. That's all that they had. So he was
I'm saying it's incredible. I'm not trying to say. I'm like, it's crazy when you think about like war in like war strategy. It feels very crazy, right? I mean, and what do I know about war strategy? Nothing at all. But it just feels like naturally crazy. But like, it's so. I'm thinking about the moment when he's like, I'm about to walk out here and give a motivational speech, like to thousands of like young people that are here, like.
William Wallace.
Think of that cinematic
to the side. Mel Gibson to the side. Father Corby giving absolution.
It's intense. It's incredible. I mean, and no offense to the National Geographic or whatever we watched depiction of that, but as a film person, I lose a little I get distracted by the filming techniques or whatever, so I can't actually live in the actual impact of the moment or whatever, but. Like a book does it better for me a lot of times, but there's like this incredible moment of like and the what am I trying to say? I can't say besides balls.
Matt, you have to do that. You have to redo it. You have to do
I couldn't do it. I couldn't give it the honor that I feel like everybody here would want. Like I feel like more I can't help but look at it in like
but you can't
insanity.
But you can't do it to what everybody wants. You have to do it to the way you feel inside. That's what you have to do.
I don't mean that
Matt,
disrespectfully either. I don't mean that disrespectfully. It's just like
Matt,
there's a certain bravado to be able to do that.
Matt,
you should try to do it,
Matt,
though.
let's do 4 or 5 takes, maybe 500 takes. Like pretend like be Father Corby. What would Father Corby say out there? Say it perfectly.
Yeah, well, one of the things is it'll go back into the Civil War, that phrase "rally round the flag."
Right.
So when the troops advance, they look to their colors, and the color bearer is very important. So at Fredericksburg, they had actually just changed over flags. Jim will go into this. They had just changed flags. They didn't have the new flags in yet. So Jim, what did they use over at Fredericksburg? And the flags are missing.
Yeah, they didn't have the green flags. They always carried green flags. If you look over Chris's, I guess, left shoulder is a green flag. That's the first Irish color. Behind me is also a green flag. The 69th always carried green flags with them. And after the Battle of Antietam in September 1862, the flags were returned to New York, and they were given a new stand of colors, what they call the second Irish colors. And you could see the video of President Kennedy presenting that flag to the Irish Parliament. And you could see the flag, but they didn't have it with them for the battle. So they put sprigs of boxwood in their hats, the green boxwood. So every year on St. Patrick's Day, the soldiers wear sprigs of boxwoods in their hat.
You see the troops marching in New York, they've got those sprigs, and that's exactly as a memory of that whole battle.
And it sticks out here in our environment, but in that environment, it probably doesn't necessarily stick out because you're thinking about in the forest, right? Or like where, I mean, are we doing another one? We've done 10 more minutes.
That's fine.
As long as we're on, we're on.
The regiment.
To the regiment.
That regiment. And that is the regimental toast, to the regiment.
To the regiment.
To the regiment.
I feel like on one hand, I have a million questions. I feel like on the other hand, like I would be out there fighting. Like if I was at that time, that I would be, I'm Irish. I'm that, like I would be out there. I feel like I would, like, and so I like to think about the what you mentioned the green sprigs. Would you see those things? Like try to put yourself in that moment. It's so interesting to me. It's so foreign and it's so different and it's so intense and it's so unlike anything you can imagine. We've only seen it in movies, and we talk about it. And we comment on it, yet you could never even possibly imagine what it's like. It's so interesting.
Well,
can you imagine you're in Battle of Fredericksburg? This is one of my favorite things. He knows this. You're at Fredericksburg. This is all going around, and the general, he says to the aide, "I need some club soda for my Irish whiskey. Can you go get me some club soda, please?" Can you imagine what this guy's thinking? I would have been like. I would have filled any bottle in it, and he comes back with champagne. But it was, yeah.
I mean, I can't.
I got to bring something. I'm going to get a beating.
I've done a lot of my career as an executive assistant on some high level jobs, and I can actually imagine what I feel like I can put myself in those shoes, and you would beat yourself up to find that solution, and then you would never feel the validation for whatever you did there. And it brings me to a story. If you guys will humor me for a second, I'll tell a story about Michael Bay on Transformers, which is like one of my favorite stories. And I'll try not.
Favorite movies.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say I love Transformers series.
It's not that. It's not a good. I don't know. Like I
don't undersell it.
Anyway, okay.
Don't undersell it, Maddie. Just go right in.
This is just take one. We could do 4 or 5 or 6 or 32
we're
takes.
not editing this that much. So we're in Transformers 2. We're on Transformers 2, and this is I love how laughable this is compared to like the needs on the Civil War field, like the juxtaposition here. We're at a graveyard in Pennsylvania on like one of the first couple days of filming on this movie. So we've been prepping for months. There's a lot of money behind this thing. We're on this graveyard, and it's a scene where Shia LaBeouf is supposed to look at, I believe it's Optimus Prime, one of the Transformer guys who's way tall, and they're supposed to have this emotional moment where he's having this emotional talk with a robot. And to do the robot, it was a visual effects guy from ILM, Ryan Wiedeker, I love the guy so much, amazing guy. Shout out to Ryan. He carries a pole, a giant ass pole that goes all the way up, and on that pole, you just need to put a tennis ball on it, like to help to do like the green helps the mark for visual effects, and so that way his eye line's right, and then they animated him later, and it's for whatever reasons. But Michael Bay, a theme in these stories, if we haven't already told any before, he's very particular. And hey, I can't knock his process. You know, he feels like the tennis ball doesn't allow the actor to act, so he has the art department make these massive faces of all the Transformer characters on big like wood. It's like, or like on, I don't know, it's not wood, but it's like something that you think is so, it's like way too heavy. So this guy is in the graveyard in Philadelphia holding a giant pole up 30 feet, 20, whatever, however tall Optimus Prime is. We can flash this up there with Joe. We can put the height of Optimus Prime later. And the thing is, like, he's trying to hold it so tight, but the wind's blowing it, so the head's just kind of like, it's like, it's shaking, it's like all fucked up, and it's funny, and it looks hilarious. It's like, he looks drunk, and
it's like
poor
Prince
Shia has to act. Michael thinks this is helping over the tennis ball, but in fact, it's making everybody make comments, and knowing Shia, like, it's like hilarious. It's not helping at all. And Bay turns to me, of all people. I'm the assistant to the producer, not the person that you would ask in the situation. And he says, I need feathers. I need feathers. Can you give me feathers? And I was like, yeah, of course, yes. Like, you're asking me? Fucking yes. Like, and I need feathers, and you throw them up for ambiance, so that when the wind's blowing, it's like stuff's floating through the air. I mean, Michael Bay is a brilliant director. Like, the guy, honestly, he's in charge of why these things make money like they do. And this is the reasons why they do. Like, he's like these little things that you wouldn't think of, but it's going to fill it up with ambiance. And so I go and I scramble. I'm like, in my mind right away, I'm like, I just drove. There's so much of the story that has to be told. I drove from up in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, down to University of Pennsylvania last night, the night before, because like of crazy film rushes. And I went to probably stay at your house in Lansdale, Adam. I think you're in this story.
I think you did.
I stayed at your house. I stole the pillow from the hotel because I didn't know where I was going to be able to sleep. And I remembered that I stole a down pillow from the hotel. So I have down feathers in my pillow in the trunk of my car. And I'm like, yes, Michael. So first I go to, I go to the normal departments. You would go to like props, or you go to art, and you're like, do you have feathers? Like the basic thing. And everybody's like, no. And everybody's, so like, I've already accomplished that. Like, none of the appropriate departments have the feathers that you would normally go to, instead of asking the assistant to the producer to get you feathers all of a sudden. And then I'm like, I got them in my car. So I go like, yes. And I run out to my car. I rip open the pillow, and luckily I did, I pull out, and it's like this crappy fake down, like,
I was going to ask what type of feathers they were.
It wasn't down at all. It was fake ass hotel feathers.
Synthetic, yeah.
And so I'm like, oh shit, I just said I got feathers. Like, I'm blowing this. And I don't know, I went through a whole bunch of steps, and I ended up coming to remembering in our trailer. So we have these RV trailers set up, and ours is always next to Bay's, and Michael Bay's or whatever. And I remembered that when we set up his trailer, like, he had down pillows. I'm like, there's no way those are fake down pillows. and I go and I take his pillow, and I'm like, I'm going to tear it apart before I go out to set, and I'm going to rip it up and make sure they're down, because I already learned my lesson. And I get some like, I have Shia LaBeouf and Megan Fox, and like, people are like there. Or I guess Shia wasn't, but like the other actors that were there were like all supporting me, like, you're gonna do this. And I rip it open, and I'm like, it's down feathers, and like throw some feathers out. Everybody's all like, yeah. And I go to set, and I handed him the pillow, and he's like, fuck it. He's so pumped. Like, I win. Like, I beat all the, like, rich department people. Like, I gave him feathers so fucking fast. After all this stuff, it was only a couple minutes. And he gets him. He starts throwing. Like, he's, like, taking him, throwing him everywhere. And at some point, the assistant director, Bruce Moriarty, says, that's not – he heard me tell him where I found – like, I told someone else where I found the pillow as he's doing this. Like, you didn't take Michael's pillow, did you? Yeah, what? Shut up! I already got. Like, I took Michael's pillow. I called the production office. I said, I took the label. I took pictures of it. I was like, you have to get this pillow specifically. Like, I'm a pro when it comes to assisting this shit. I was like, no, you can't. You have to find this pillow, and like we figured out where to find this pillow, like to replace it, in the exact same pillow. Apparently, while I was looking for this thing, Michael Bay had told everybody waiting. Someone mentioned to him, because I had mentioned to them, like, your pillow has down feathers in it. And so, like, me not thinking, like, they relayed that to him in the time that I was looking. And he said, not my pillow. And he started to go into these, like, kind of creepy stories about all the places that his pillows have been. And it was like, not appropriate, Michael Bay stuff.
Father Corby would not approve, I'm sure.
Father Corby would not approve of this story.
Down.
And sorry, I've gone on a 20-minute tangent after our 60-minute power hour. I'm so sorry. But
80-minute, really.
And so he's throwing them around, and he hears the AD say that wasn't Michael's pillow. Apparently, he told everybody this thing, and it was just not my pillow. And he was like, "Is that my pillow?" And I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Dude." He's like fucking screaming at me. Take my fucking pillow. Take it to the fucking wardrobe. Have them sew it up. Have them put it back on my bed. And I had no idea. I'm like, yes, sir. And I left, and it was the classic mistake.
See, Maddie, that's when you needed a Trevor moment. My bad, man. My bad.
Well, so my wife, Sarah, that I hadn't met at the time, she knows that story. She was like, everybody was like, yes! That was the best thing ever. Like, everybody outside the story was like tired of getting beat up by Bay on set, was like, that was the greatest thing that ever happened on a movie set.
I'm
sorry.
So we need to redo this for the regiment. We need Corby. Maddie directs it because of his experience. He will get that scene right. He will go to whatever extent that you need to get the pillows needed for that shot.
The alarm didn't go off, but it's 7:45. Means it's another shot. We got to wrap this up, right? You guys are still going? What? I can tell these stories all night.
Chris and Jim,
yes.
What do you make of Matt's crazy story right there? Do you even believe it?
No, well, we have them in different directions. I have the same thing in distillation. Jim has them, I'm sure, in military. Everybody's got them, and they can go on all night. They've gone on all night at times for us. So
they are
cheers.
Right now.
Cheers.
To the regiment.
To the regiment.
You see how empty that bottle gets? It just evaporates all the time.
It's like it's 90 degrees outside, and it's sitting right out in the sun. But thank you guys. This has been great history. Great to learn the connection with Notre Dame, and great to hear it. And, just thank you guys for coming aboard, especially after the few times that we've tried to get together. And
that was amazing.
Or scheduling.
We never answered the question about how much whiskey Father Corby drank.
Oh, that is a good question. How much did they drink back in the day?
You don't know about Corby. The priests don't usually tell you how much they drink.
That's holy wine. To drink Eucharistic wine. Yeah. We did have we have a particular large store that sells things on the internet all over the country, and we get downloads of who bought. And we got the thing yesterday that a priest in a state that should go unnamed, he picked up a couple of bottles, had it sent right to the church.
Nice.
And we were like, this is how you really get the parishioners to come back. You've changed the holy water into Irish whiskey. And then I was like, I said, now I know where the money from the poor plate, where it's going. This guy's buying good book, and he could get it like 3 blocks away. No, he had it sent to the house, right to the rectory.
Chris, this is a fantastic value, though. Right? I mean,
this whiskey, yeah, it should be double the cost for how it drinks.
If my priest, Father Pagano, was going to pick up a whiskey, and do it with the money I put in the collection bin, I would want him to get his money's worth.
Well, you want to make sure if he had that in a chalice, that you would go up and take communion.
And that too.
I think we've also really developed the advertising campaign for your company during this conversation. Just saying, we've got a lot of content really to get this whiskey out there.
Agreed.
This has been great, guys.
Yeah.
Trevor, sorry,
good
what were you
times.
gonna say?
Good fun.
Thank you very much for inviting
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
No, really thank you guys, and this is a really fun conversation, really fun time, and just great to catch up with you guys over the few months that we've been, working this thing through. And for what you guys have done through the pandemic, it's admirable. It's what you guys have done over the years of service is commendable. And we thank you guys for everything that you've done, everything that you continue to do, and just getting the word out there, especially to those looking to get involved. And, we appreciate you guys.
Thank you. We're doing a tasting with the Metro New York Long Island Notre Dame group next week.
Nice.
And
Cool.
then we didn't realize how many charities that you all raised. Each chapter raises money for.
Yeah.
Mid Hudson. Then we've got down by you. We're doing them all over the place. We're trying to catch up. But meanwhile, the university had put a freeze on for a while, so we're trying to get that unfrozen and work with you guys.
September 1st, we're good to go. We just had our club meeting last week. So, Chris, you and I will talk next week or end of this week.
The school's cranking out alumni with money on their mind, and we're trying to do the right thing with that money and put it in the right place. So you're right. Like you talk to any one of us, and we're trying to mobilize and build a community.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
That's it. Good stuff. Well, I think we're all set for tonight.
Yeah, this has been great. Let's do this again. I would love to keep going through history with Colonel Tierney. It's been a pleasure talking with you and Chris. Learning a lot from you guys. I'm sorry for my crazy shenanigans or whatnot.
No, but that's a great story, though. Great influx story right there.
I disagree, Trevor. I think we should do another take at least. Matt, can you just start it from the beginning again? And just
no, I'm not going to make them go through that.
Still got more in the bottle.
I think Chris and I should log off, and you guys should stay on. And
there we go.
We will.
You
will.
It's
3 hours later over here, so.
Yeah.
And I was on with Ireland at 6:00 this morning.
Jeez.
So
I'll let you guys get going.
Been a long day.
For real though, if we can be a resource for you guys, like I know we joke and we have fun, but we're passionate about what we're doing, and we want to help the people that are helping us out on our show. So if literally anything, please don't be shy. Let us know.
Yeah, and then let us know. Let us know when this is done, so we can put it on our Facebook, social media to help you guys out. But we'll work together, and as we come up with other pieces to get done. We had just recently shot a whole bunch of drink recipes with someone that does it all the time.
That's awesome.
Different pieces.
Nice.
So we're doing different things as time goes on.
You got to be
do more.
creative. You got to be creative during this time, and that's like a little bit what I was getting at is you gotta stay on your toes during this time in order to stay alive. So if we can help you guys succeed with that, we are always the ones that are up for the crazy ideas and maybe the lesser travel roads, but I'm very confident in those roads.
No, those are the best paths for us.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Good.
It's been fun.
Awesome.
All the best.
Appreciate you guys.
Thanks so much.
Much respect for your mixology, Chris, and for Tierney. Much respect for you guys.
Yeah. A pleasure.
And
All
go
the
Irish.
best. Yes.
Go Irish.